You are watching Park TV. You are watching Park TV. Welcome to Monadnock Tonight with your host, Steve Jackson, coming to you live from the studios of the beautiful Park Theater in downtown Jaffrey, New Hampshire. Join Steve and his guests today, 3 award-winning actors of stage, screen, and film, ERNEST THOMPSON, Gordon CLAPP, and, oh yeah, me, Lisa BOSTNAR. Now sit back, relax, and here's Steve.
Well. Good evening, good afternoon, and hello, friends. And welcome to the Park Theater and Park TV's Monadnock Tonight. It is Thursday, October 15th, 2020. It's about 5 p.m. here on the East Coast, and this is show number 52. And I can tell you, for those tuning in from outside the area, it's sunny and 68 degrees. And yes, I am Steve Jackson, CEO of the Park Theater and your host. And we are so glad that you could join us today because we have a wonderful show with a very interesting panel. Our guests are 3 stars of stage, screen, and film with lots to talk about, including a new project that they are working on in their own individual projects. But first, let me give you a couple of notes from the Park Theater. As I mentioned last week, it is Scaretober at the Park Theater. And on Park Pixflix, we have a series of fun, free films for Halloween every week. And this week's addition to Scary and Spooky Festival is The Abominable Dr. Phibes. From 1971, starring my personal favorite in terms of horror, Mr. Vincent Price. And if you don't know Dr. Phibes, I'm going to give you a taste of it. Here we go. This is the trailer for The Abominable Dr.
What lovely music for a murder, or 2, or 3, or 9. Who's this? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet a dear friend. 9 killed you. 9 shall die.
Your wife, no, Phibes. But you I will kill.
But you can't, Doctor. I am already dead.
Here, how are we going to get him off this? You take his head, and I'll take his feet. Let's unscrew him.
Dr. Phibes, who samples the finer things of life in his own inimitable way.
Got some boils, some bats.
Frogs?
Frogs, yes. And a glass of blood. Glass of ale in the bloody middle of nowhere.
Are you ready for Dr. Phibes?
Oh, we're ready, all right. That's 1971, and for those who know some of those other actors that came up in the trailer, you've got Hugh Griffith, you've got Terry Thomas, and of course, who was still performing at that time was the great Joseph Cotten. So quite a roster of talent in this British-made spooky high camp film. So if you haven't seen that before, just go to theparktheater.org, and in the upper right corner, pick Park Pixflix in the top right, and you can watch it in your tablet, or if you know how to do that, you can beam it up to your large screen TV. Now, what's also going on in beautiful Scaretober, as we call it, is our virtual Halloween contest that we talked about last week. The virtual Halloween costume contest in Jaffrey, the downtown trick or treat event sadly had to be canceled based on the guidelines from the CDC and so forth. So at least from business to business, where most of the kids would do their trick or treating, that's canceled. So we tried to come up with something that everyone can have fun with and still dress up. And we have 3 categories. We have adult, child, and pet. And there will be a $50 cash prize in each category. The online entry form goes live tomorrow. The deadline for your submission is October 27th. And I should tell you that the little kitty on the right there, the carrot, is Whitey. And Whitey is the cat that is owned by Kevin Hampsey, who I will be talking about momentarily. But so please enter. You must enter. And remember, if you're entering a child or if a child is entering, you must get your parents' permission. And all that information is on the entry form that you can find on Facebook tomorrow. It'll be going out on our email blast as well. So what I was going to say about Kevin Hampsey, that little kitty belongs to this gentleman on the left there. And that photo was taken this afternoon at a socially distanced event because a major supporter of our theater received a wonderful recognition this afternoon. Kevin Hampsey, long-term board member and supporter of the park, received the New Hampshire Association of Realtors Good Neighbor Award for 2020. And the prize money that Kevin receives, $3,000 for that award, is being donated to the theater via the Realtors Association and Kevin. So that's wonderful. So if anybody sees Kevin, give him the thumbs up for this wonderful recognition for all the work he does, not only for the Park Theater, but for many other nonprofits, the schools, and so forth. He is a dynamo in terms of helping not only this community, certainly, but the surrounding communities as well with all sorts of things. And he's helped our organization and myself personally many, many times. So this was a great recognition for Kevin. But now let us get to today's event with this incredible panel that we have got. Let's introduce our guests for today. Our first guest, ERNEST THOMPSON, is an actor, director, screenwriter, and playwright. His written and directed films include 1969, The West Side Waltz, and Out of Time. And of course, Ernest won the Oscar for the adapted screenplay of his own play, On Golden Pond. He's a great friend of the park who was on one of our first Monadnock Tonight broadcasts. Plus, he was on our celebrity panel for our telethon this past July. So let's bring in, through the magic of the internet, Mr. ERNEST THOMPSON. Bing bong, there he is. Hello, Ernest.
Hello, Stevens. How are you?
Very good. Hold tight, Ernest, because we're going to bring in our next guest. And our next guest is Gordon CLAPP. Gordon most recently had a one-man Robert Frost show at the Peterborough Players, right next door to us from Jaffrey. And he has played many times at the Players in multiple productions. He's played on stages all over, including Broadway with Glengarry Glen Ross and The Great Society, playing the role of J. Edgar Hoover. His numerous films include Return of the Secaucus 7, 8 Men Out, Flags of Our Fathers. TV includes Chicago Fire, Mob City, and Damages. Plus, you will always remember him as Detective Greg Medavoy on NYPD Blue, a role he won an Emmy for and an additional nomination. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello and welcome to Gordon CLAPP. 3, 2, 1. There's Gordon.
Oh,
there we are.
leaning the wrong way.
Well, you'll lean a different way after we introduce our next guest. Finally, our third guest has graced the New York stage for many years, plus other stages coast to coast and right here with many seasons with the Peterborough Players. She has also guest starred on the Law and Order, The Blacklist, Pan Am, Conviction, and Blind Spot. Most recently, she shot a new film based on the New Yorker short story Cold Little Bird by Ben Marcus. She is also the announcer of this program. And we, Miss Bostner and myself, have been performing together for many years. And so, hello and welcome to Lisa Bostner. Hello, Lisa. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, gents.
And there we all are.
She's so much
That's
prettier than we are.
No.
Gordon is mute. Gordon, you're mute.
No, he's not. I
No,
can hear
I'm
him.
hearing Gordon. You're not hearing him?
Mm-mm.
Oh, boy.
I hear everybody else, but I don't hear Gordon, and I miss it. I miss his dulcet tones.
Well, what I would do,
First time you've
Gordon,
ever said that to me.
when we have this problem, and it's happened occasionally, the best thing that you can do is actually close your browser and open it up again and use the guest URL that we provided, and that will make a difference. If you don't mind doing that.
Hurry back, Ernest.
No, I'm
this
going.
is Gordon. Gordon.
Oh, Gordon has to do it. Oh,
I don't have any problems in the world.
No.
What
So
do
Gordon,
I have
if you
to do? Are
just-
hearing me?
I hear you.
I hear you too. I don't know why Ernest can't. Wait a minute. See, Kim, do you have any ideas on that? My producer, Kim's in the wings. If she has an idea why we can't hear Gordon, but I'm guessing it also could be you, Ernest. Do you mind trying it first?
No. What do you want me to go away?
Quit
come back
Chrome
to me?
and just come back in again.
Okay, I'll have my IT man take care of that now, please. Thank you.
All right. And well, of course, Kim is telling me that everyone is being able to be heard.
We can say anything we want about Ernest right now. So
Especially you, because
the
you can't.
opportunity, you just get it out.
Yeah, we've only got seconds left. Yeah, sadly, it may be Ernest because Kim is telling me that everyone on Facebook is hearing all of us, but that is a problem if Ernest can't hear Gordon. So hopefully he will be back. It doesn't take very long to come back in, and I will get. But in the meantime, hello.
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 I was hearing two of Lisa's during the introduction. I was hearing a big echo during the whole introduction, but now it's all fine except we miss Ernest.
Well, then it may be, it's all Ernest. Whatever Ernest has been doing, it's all Ernest. Well, I think Ernest is important in this conversation, as we'll start to hear as we're talking about subjects. Obviously, the impact of COVID-19 hits every industry and every vocation, and certainly in any business that's a communal business, and theater and cinema is a communal event, has been hit very hard. And restaurants, of course, hit hard, at least from business side things. Of course, churches are a communal experience, education is communal, and they've all been hit hard. And but today we'll be talking about the performing arts and cinema, and how what's been going on in those various areas and how people are dealing with it. I'm keeping an eye on Ernest down here.
Do you have to invite him back in?
Wait a minute. Now hold on. Hello, Ernest.
Can you hear me?
I have transported back. I hear you. I hear
Speak,
Steve.
Gordon, speak. Stop that.
Can you hear me?
Unfortunately, now I can hear you.
All right.
Did you talk about me in my absence?
We did.
Oh, you don't want to know what was said.
I know you have an agenda, but I have to tell you very quickly. I had the great pleasure of knowing Vincent Price back in the 70s.
Mm.
He was married to Coral Brown, and she told a great story that Ellis Rabb was directing The Importance of Being,
Yes.
Ernest, and called the house to say, "Hey, we're doing this production, and we need a Lady Bracknell." And Coral said, "Well, I would be delighted, darling." And he said, "No, actually, we were hoping that maybe Vincent would consider."
Did he do it?
No,
No, he would have been wonderful.
it would have been great.
Huh?
They were a riot, the two of them.
I was with the same agency as Vincent Price and
Really?
Oh,
yeah,
my.
and Billy Wilder.
Yeah.
It was an old, very old agency. Kohner, Paul
I
Kohner,
remember them, Paul
Kohner
Kohner.
brothers from Austria. It was the second oldest agency in LA. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, we're talking about ourselves. Would you like to ask any other?
Well, let me take you to where we are right now, and something that's kind of interest, I think, to everyone. As I was just saying while you were gone, Ernest, just about COVID and how it's affected all industries, and certainly the communal experience industry, known as live performance and and the watching of film. It certainly has hit the theater, whether it's film or whether it's live performance, has hit it very, very hard around the world, not just the U.S., just like everything else with COVID. But I'm going to ask us to go into the Wayback Machine and for Lisa, Gordon, and Ernest, what was your life was like for you that second week of March, when everything started to shut, on, what were the phone calls, emails that you're receiving? Lisa, do you want to start?
Sure. I was the second week in March. I had two voiceovers, one right after the other, and then started filming on a big network television show. And then I got the email saying somebody on the set tested positive, go quarantine, everything is shut down. So things were popping, they were good, it was exciting. And if you'll all remember, it's amazing that we're all still here because in New York at that point, on every set that I was on for those couple of weeks, it was gloves, no masks. Do you remember that? It was just the opposite. We learned later on and during this pandemic what to really do, but it was just gloves, no masks. And yeah, and it's I thought about that the other day because I had such a chance to get sick, and thank God I did not. But yeah, things were great, and then everything shut down overnight in a matter of seconds. Everything just closed.
How about you, Gordon?
Well, Elizabeth, my wife and I had just we went out to Los Angeles. Each of us have a son out in the LA area, and that was March. We were out there March 5th to 11th, and I was supposed to start a Broadway show on. I was supposed to start rehearsals on the 16th of March. On the 14th, I drove down to my friend's house in New Jersey. We had dinner, and he was about to drive me into the city, and I was going to leave my car at his house, and I was going to move into this apartment that they had arranged for me. And I happened to glance at my email, and it said, "We're postponing for a week." So my wife was up in Vermont, and I drove back to Vermont the next day and waited the week out. And then on Friday, they said, "We're postponing indefinitely." And by then, my wife was ensconced. She works at Boston Children's Hospital. She's the manager of the art there. And she said, "Nobody's going in, and so you're going to have to put up with me." And so we're actually like a married couple now. It's extraordinary. We had spent, I think, 3 days last year together or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
So
And so,
yeah, so
and
no
so
Broadway, no Broadway for Gordy.
the
Right
pause
now.
button
Right now.
right now.
Yeah.
And Ernest, how about yourself with what was going on that week and those 2 weeks?
Well, my answer is a little bit different because my wife and I, Karen, were in recovery from what we assume was COVID because we'd been really, really sick in end of January when we come back from LA. And there's this term called long haulers, and I think we qualify for it because those are people who have symptoms that keep recurring. And it took a long time for us to get over our bout with it. So we were way ahead of everybody else. I remember saying to Karen early on in February when more and more information was starting to present itself that this is going to be around for a long time. And she said, well, how long do you think? And I said, at least a year. And so we had already closed down. I was still snowboarding and skiing, and I was still working on future productions, still raising money for our movie Parallel America, still having conversations about my production of On Golden Pond starring Lisa Bostnar and Ernest Thompson. And, every year there are hundreds of productions of On Golden Pond. Now there are 0. But there was one in Canada getting close to starting rehearsal with Michael Learned and Hal Linden
Oh my gosh.
and all over the place. So those conversations all stopped. But as I said, we had already inured ourselves to the notion that we probably weren't going anywhere. And here we are 8 months later, and we're still not going anywhere. And that's not just because of all of the above, but early on in the pandemic, we lost 3 very dear friends in New York. My original acting agent and my longtime literary agent and his partner. And our son got very ill in Brooklyn and may have permanent lung damage. And as I said, we had it. So we live at the extreme edge of caution and kind of like it here. But it's shocking to me when I see people who are not taking it seriously. And I do think it's the NIMBY phenomenon. If it's not in your backyard, you don't understand that it really can be. But it started in our backyard, and we have been very respectful of it ever since.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, no one has avoided this. I mean, they may think they have avoided, as you say, but it has a way of touching you when you least expect it to as well. So, the one thing that happened a little while after this began, I know Lisa, you had an idea that was sent to you by Ernest. So why don't you start that off, and then Ernest can talk a little bit more about it.
Yes, it wasn't my idea at all. It was Ernest.
No, it was I meant Ernest had sent you an idea to start a dialogue about something.
And I've been having such a great time working on it. So very early on, Ernest, being who he is, started writing a script, a serial. I guess hopefully it will be a serial. It will be an ongoing scenarios between people that don't have to be in the same room. Right now, it has nothing to do with COVID. Just the circumstances they find themselves in, except for a couple people who are in the same room. These people are not in the same room. And it's very clever, and it's very, at least my storyline, I'm in love with. It's very touching. It's funny. It's moving. And we will be taping it. Ernest plays my husband. And we have this very intense, wonderful, wild relationship. And you don't ever see us in the same room right now. So yeah, it's been very exciting to work on.
I'll hand it now to Ernest, and if you could give us a sense of how you came about this idea, and that to create a web series in the midst of this pandemic that could be produced virtually but
Well,
not necessarily having, as Lisa said, the storyline being COVID storyline, which many of these projects have incorporated a COVID line, a
Yeah.
storyline.
Well, first of all, there's no cure for storytelling. I've been one all of my life, and I don't like sitting idle. And now technology enables us to create on any kind of level that we want. So I am blessed by having a stable of actors whom I adore and admire and respect and love working with. None more than Lisa Bostner. Second behind her, Gordon Clapp, and a handful of them. And it's such a luxury. And I always admired Chris Guest and others who work with the same people over and over again. And because you get to know the actors, you get to know what their skills and strengths are, their humor. So I started writing this thing, and I wanted to write it as close as I could to the actors whom I wanted to be involved. And the show is called Cries of Valor in Defiance. Cries of Valor in Defiance. So anybody might take those 5 letters and see if they come up with an acronym of some sort, which kind of turns out to be COVID. But it starts on January 1st, 2020, when nobody knows that the world is about to go upside down. And it just follows these bunch of characters. I play a writer. I don't know how I come up with this stuff. Lisa plays the painter, and we are married in our story, but we are at a crossroads. So my character has left New York and gone to a fictitious town in New England to reconsider everything, including his marriage. Gordon Clapp, I'll let him talk about his character, but I've long been fascinated. I wrote a play called On Golden Pond many years ago that touched upon the subject of Alzheimer's before that word was even part of our vocabulary. I wrote for Gordon a role of a doctor, a country doctor, who's starting to drift. And I couldn't have chosen a better character and a better actor. We've gotten to rehearse it, and he's going to be just mind-blowingly brilliant in it.
Will you write a scene for me and Gordon somewhere down the line?
Yeah.
Good.
And that's what I was going to say, is that now it follows 5 or 6 storylines, but eventually they'll start to interweave.
Yeah.
Gordon plays a country doctor. I play a guy who went to the country. I have some issues that I need medical help with. Gordon's character comes to my rescue. Lisa's character will interact with him. There's a young actress, a really wonderful young woman in New York whom Lisa and I have had the pleasure of working with, named Irina Kaplan. I wrote for her a role of an influencer online, and she's over the top, wild, crazy. But her specialty is sex advice. So anybody can go get advice from her, including Lisa's character. But within the framework of it, and what I'm excited about is really are 2 things. One is writing history immediately after it happens. So our first episode is January 20th, but right after that will be Valentine's Day, and then it'll be St. Patty's Day, and St. Patty's Day comes 3 days or 4 days after America shut down. So all of these characters get to deal with their own reaction, just as you're asking us to share, to COVID and how it complicates their lives. The other thing that I'm really excited about is that I don't want this story to have an end. It's unusual for me as a storyteller writing a play, a movie, a book, or even a song, not to know what the beginning, middle, and end are. In this case, I know what the beginning is, but I don't know where the story's going to go because time will tell us that. And I'd like to think that Gordon and Lisa and I and the other extraordinary actors will be working on this thing 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I'm an optimist, and I'd like to just track those characters' lives through our personalities, our talent, and our storytelling.
Nice.
Gordon, would you like to comment on the character that Ernest has developed for you?
I applaud his optimism. That's a 20-year plan. And that may just be a reality. You know, the memory thing might be a reality at that point. But I can't wait to get started on this, and I'm waiting on a couple of props and on some casting, because I go through in the second episode, I go through a list of patients, and I'm trying to remember them by attaching headshots up to my bulletin board. But we haven't decided which of these photos are going to be people who are actually cast in the production. So we have to get photos of the people who are cast, and they're not cast yet. So um, I have a technical glitch before I can really begin working on that. But
Well,
that's
I try to make life as interesting as possible.
Gordon. Yes.
Give us something to do in these COVID times, Ernest.
Well, you know, I think what's kind of cool about it is that COVID will end someday. It's hard to envision that now, but this story won't. And so the story will also incorporate the end of COVID. And
Yeah.
at that point, I'll be able to go as the director to the locations. I won't rely on Lisa being her own set decorator, her own sound person, her own lighting person with Steve Jackson's ample help. And the same with Gordon. Uh, I like my actor friends who are cohabitating with other actors. For instance, my partner in White Bridge Farm Productions, my partners are a couple named Morgan Murphy and Laurie Gigliotti Murphy. They're married, so it's easy for me to write a story about a married couple, and they happen to have an actress daughter. So I know that the three of them are all in the same place. So I can incorporate that story, but that'll happen with others as well. And the day will come. I have, I'm so blessed to have lots of young techie um, filmmakers of the future who are eager to be involved with this. So the day will happen when I'll be able to say to those guys, okay, I want you to go to Gordon Clapp's house and film him, and we won't have to worry about masks and
Yeah.
thoughts and temperatures and like that. In the meantime, however, we can tell this story, and that I find so gratifying to be able to work with these delicious actors and know them well enough that I think I can write within their wheelhouse and continue to grow it. I like giving them challenges. Uh, Gordon has already mentioned one. He doesn't have his props yet because the director hasn't sent him his props, but that's good. That's a good test. Lisa plays an artist, and I said to her, "Your world famous artist is a collage maker." So Lisa has spent her spare time, of which all of us have more than we need, creating this piece of art, which Steve, you know all about, and that's thrilling to me. And to give you an example of how helpful it is when there are actors under the same roof, I wrote Lisa's character a cat, a rescue cat. She has three cats, as you may know this, Steve, who live
I
in
may
your
know
house.
that. Yes.
And but they all had to audition, and
Of course.
we decided, really, Lisa decided who the proper cat would be. And the other cats are not happy about that.
They are. They're walking all over my art piece.
Yeah, well, there you
They've
go.
asked to
In
be.
protest.
They have asked though to be included as PAs, so maybe there's a shot still for them. Now, I just well, first question I'll continue with you, Ernest, in terms of it sounds like it's very fluid, but in terms of the timing of when you would like to start to get episodes out to the audience, when do you think there may be? Would that be next spring or?
Oh, I hope it'll be long before next spring.
Yeah.
Usually, as you know, Steve, the first thing you do when you've cast a show is do a table read. We haven't even been able to do our table read because of everybody's life complications.
Right.
Now, part of it is illness, unfortunately. Part of it is just getting the people in the same place at the same time whose schedules align with mine and the other actors. And part of it is, I don't know what, I haven't really discussed this with Lisa, Steve, or Gordon, but I'm seeing this syndrome of what I believe is called COVID fog, where people just aren't as focused. And it's a true challenge for a filmmaker. And it's not that they've been exposed to it, it's just that our lives are so askew right now that I think it's more difficult for people to think, oh, I'm an actor, I'm doing this job, and our circumstances are so different and unique, and we're hardly unique in that. I mean, it's happening in all businesses, restaurants, and hospitals. I think there's an element of that, and that's part of what I want to address in Cries of Valor, in Defiance, is you got to go on anyway. And yes, it sucks, if I can say that on your show. It sucks that we're in this place. Nobody could have predicted it. Nobody wanted it, but so what? It goes into that file for me, the so what file. How do we live our best lives? How do we make the best work? How do we share our stories that may affect other people and elucidate and educate and inspire other people? So to answer your question, yeah, as soon as we get past the beginning, what I haven't had the luxury of doing is having Gordon get to see Morgan and Laurie in their storyline, or Arena Kaplan, for instance, who recently rescued a dog with only 3 legs. And I said, okay, your character now has a dog with 3 legs. But when we get to have that sort of colloquy and everybody gets to hear everybody else, off we go. Gordon will get his photos and we'll start shooting. And as soon as we have it, we'll start cutting. I've got these young techies who are going to work with me on it. And then we'll go online.
And another distinction between what a lot of us have been doing Zoom productions or whatever, little Zoom meetings and Zoom moments, and I did a play, what they call a play date at Northern Stage. It's a program that they were having during COVID, and so a friend of mine and I, Davis Strathairn, and I did scenes from Endgame. Talked about Endgame. I've done a project with an actor in England about the relationship between Robert Frost and Edward Thomas. Edward Thomas was his best friend, or probably his best friend ever, and he died in the First World War, and Frost lived into the 60s. So there's just this wonderful relationship that they had in the letters and poems. But these were all Zoom things that we were doing, and this particular project, COVID, Cries of Valor and Despair, is it's not a Zoom. It's going to be each segment, episode, scene, situation, whatever you want to call it, is with cell phones and whatever camera equipment we have. And suddenly my wife is going to be a cinematographer.
Excellent.
That's right. Yeah. and if I may, that's part of what I am loving about the challenge. Gordon and I have spent time working on this together, and we choose a room in his house to be the doctor's home. And we tried upstairs. I thought, maybe so he went down into the cellar and we created a set down there, and we've talked about lighting, how to light that, where the camera's going to be. So it's kind of exciting that these actors get to sort of cross lines that they may not ordinarily on a movie set or even in a theater. They are now the lighting people, and we're filming it like a film, except that everyone's shooting on these devices, which are amazing now, and then we'll cut it. So my dream is it's going to look like a movie, and that's what people will experience when they watch it. I did want to say, Steve, that we're doing it on a minuscule budget, but if people want to be involved, as always is true, I work with my doors and windows open all the time. As you know, I've shot movies through my company, White Bridge Farm Productions, and I offered them as on-location training for anybody of any age or background to be involved. That includes financially, and we've had some wonderfully generous people who've wanted to be involved with our movie Parallel America, which stars Lisa BOSTNAR, CLAPP, and me, and John Davis. And so that invitation always exists. And if people are curious about what we're working on now, Cries of Valor and Defiance, come on aboard. Write to me or write to Steve, and we'd love to have you involved in whatever way that may be. The other thing I'll be doing is adding characters as we go. Gordon mentioned the photos. of his patients, his character's patients, all of those photos, those characters will become characters in the show eventually. And that's, I find, thrilling too, to be able to continue to expand exponentially and continue to grow this story. Is that the cat from the show?
You know what? I keep vacillating, but she just kind of hangs out, and she looks like a Guinevere, doesn't she?
She does. She looks.
I think it's got to be. This is the rescue, though. She's very skittish, so I don't want my back scratched up. But I think I think I'm going back to her. Tate isn't very interested. He's a dude. He doesn't want to be called Guinevere.
Yeah, well,
He's not prepared for that role yet. The one thing, and I think the way, Gordon, you were characterizing this project versus other ones, and Lisa's been involved, the Zoom, the Zoomation of theater. There's a lot of that going on, and people are trying to make it as fresh and innovative, but not as much as going on as which is this interesting tact, which is to kind of self-produce under the guidance of ERNEST THOMPSON as director and producer and writer, but having people not Zoom and pull all this material together and have it professionally, have it edited with a smart narrative, as opposed to the confines of Zoom, which are definitely limiting.
Is there a question?
Did you see Richard Nelson's? Richard Nelson has done. He has a series of plays about a family called the Apple family, and
I've heard of it. Yeah.
He took the most recent one before COVID, and he made it into a COVID family night.
Oh wow!
Where they were all chatting, and it worked out that two of the actors are married, but they're playing siblings, so they found out a way to Jay Sanders and Marianne Plunkett.
Yeah.
So they're playing siblings, and there was a wonderful dynamic between husband and wife playing siblings.
Yeah, it's
wonderful. But did they do it on Zoom, Gordon?
And they did it on Zoom, but they I don't think it was live. I don't think it could have been live. No, it might have been. I mean, it might have been, but they were all off book, and it was just.
I'm sure we're all going to be perfect.
It was really fun. There are now 3 of them. They've produced 3 of them, and I'm not sure where they're available, but it's public theater. It's through the public theater. So
yeah.
I like the idea of being as mistake-free as we can. I've never seen anything on Zoom where something didn't get screwed up. Yeah. I saw Gordon's wife's wonderful short plays with a few stumbles because that's the nature of it. But I want this to feel seamless, and the only way to accomplish that is to film it like a movie and cut it like a movie and present it in that fashion. And we have that luxury. And we have the time. The day will come when Gordon Clapp will be back on Broadway. Lisa will be back in her show. I'll be doing other stuff, but that doesn't mean we ever have to stop working on this.
No.
Because I can write a scene for Gordon, even if he's on Broadway, and I can say, Gordon, can you give me the afternoon? And he can go in a corner of the apartment that they've given him while he's doing his Broadway show, and we can do another scene. And I'm really excited about the time comes when Gordon and I get to play patient and doctor together. Because I've only known Gordon for a couple of years, but I feel as if I've known him forever. We're both New Hampshire boys, and we're kind of the same age, although Gordon is considerably older. But he's a terrific actor. He's going to be so incredible in this show, and I can't wait for people to see it because there's such a comedic side to his character and a delicious side.
It is a wonderful character. It's
thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
It's a gift.
Ernest, you were talking about before we went on the air, and some of our audience might know this film series that is from a British filmmaker who went back I don't know, it was not always a regular interim, I don't think, or maybe it was
7 years.
Every 7, because it's 7 Up.
7 years. Yep. 7
And is it what Michael Apted? Is that who it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he started with them with his quote actors. It's not really actors because it's more a documentary, is it not?
Yeah, that's right. It's completely just 7 kids on the playground or 10 kids on the playground.
So they were like 10 years old when this is first shot in the 60s, correct?
No, they're 7.
7. Oh, they start when they're 7. Oh, that makes all right.
Hence the name.
But it wasn't like 66 or something like that,
Yeah,
1960s.
I think maybe even 63. I think they're in their 60s now.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been a 63 up or not, but he's every 7 years he goes back, and I just found it absolutely.
Yeah. If you haven't seen one or all, but if you haven't seen one of them, look it up. Again, Michael Apted, Apted. It's a very, very interesting series, especially when you look at one from when they're these little tots, these British kids, and then move it up, another segment, and see how they age and they go through life. So the ups and downs of life, and you see where they end up.
It's deeply moving, and I've always been intrigued by it. But in our situation with Cries of Valor and Defiance, it's fictional, so we get to shape the story. What's so heartbreaking in many ways with the Up series is that it's just their lives, and not all of their lives turn out as beautifully and as fancifully as they might have dreamt. And you feel for these real life people. I hope you'll feel for the characters that we're creating collectively. But I just love the notion of a story that never ends. It's like you're reading a novel, and you think, God, I hate them. 70 pages to go, 6 pages to go. I don't want it to end. I'd like the story to just go on and on.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, I think the
Let's
audience
get it going.
Yeah, let's get her done.
Let's get it going.
Let's do what people read soon.
Speaking to the audience, I think you've been taken under the tent this evening, to in the organic goop of all this, of creativity happening amongst all these performers, and the writer Ernest Thompson, the director, the producer, of something very new and very different, being shaped by being resourceful. And there's another way to skin a cat and to do. That's an awful thing for me.
That's an awful phrase.
It must be my Halloween scare-tober coming out of me. I apologize to my cats. Well, let's as we kind of summarize ourselves, just other things that are going on. Ernest, you mentioned Parallel America. There's still development going on that, and looking for, as you were mentioning, folks who want to join the folks that have already participated on the financial side. There are a lot of actors that have participated in it so far. Anything you'd like to say on that?
Anybody who knows anything about Parallel America, and it's a movie I wrote a few years ago, and we were right on the precipice of production 2 years ago with Gordon and Lisa and the whole cast of extraordinary actors. The story of Parallel America doesn't get any less timely. It's even more so now. And there's part of me that thinks, good we waited, because the situation in our country, politically and sociologically and culturally, has heightened. So the story is just steaming. It's so hot right now. So absolutely.
The characters are getting older.
Speak for yourself, Gordon.
It doesn't matter. It starts 50 years ago at a small college here in my neck of the woods in New Hampshire called Belknap College. So if it's 50 years later or 51 years later or 52 years later, it doesn't really matter. But anybody who wants to learn more about it, just come visit me. And while we're talking, I see one of our pals, who's one of our investors, just punched in. Hello, Bob. Good to see you. And anybody can come and play with us. So consider it and come find me or go through Steve, who's one of our producers.
And the website, again, for Parallel America, I'm trying to remember it. Maybe your producer can help us there.
What's it called?
Your tech person.
ParallelAmericaTheMovie.com.
Thank you, Karen.
You can learn all about it. You can see who the other actors are, get a sense of the storyline, and how you can become involved on whatever level.
Yeah. Well, let me just ask other projects that everyone else is working on right now, and then there's one more I'm going to ask Ernest about. Gordon, other things that are not that there's a lot going on.
Northern Stage, which is our regional theater here in White River Junction, Vermont, has been hoping to do live theater for small audiences. There is a production going on right now, a one-woman show, and it's a new play, and I'm forgetting the title. But it's I think it's running for another week and a half, and they're getting small audiences. I will be doing a Chekhov monologue called "The Harmful Effects of Tobacco." We had hoped to do it live with another series of monologues called "The Naked Librarian" by my friend Marisa Smith. But it became a little, there were just too many conditions that had to be met with the equity rules. So we've decided just to film it and stream it. So again, it will be not a Zoom production, but a production that's filmed and then streamed. And there'll be I think the ticket price is around $15. And you can go to the northernstage.org website.
And Gordon, I'm just on the website right now. Is the play that you're referring to, is it It's Fine, I'm Fine?
It's Fine, I'm Fine. Yes. Oh, and another one was filmed, which called Dutch Masters, which I saw last night written by a friend of mine, Greg Keller, a guy I worked with over in Dorset last summer. And it's a really it's a great story and beautifully performed by two actors. It was filmed in White River Junction a couple of weeks ago.
Nice.
And again, that's Northern
It's
Stage.
well worth the $15.
Yeah.
Really.
And you're contributing to the theater. But we do miss being in the same room with people. And that's not, for what we've always said is, when everything is gone, we'll still have the theater. And ironically, that's the only thing we don't have now. Well, it's not the only thing we don't have, but I think it's my light that's getting.
Mine too.
Making me funny. Making me look funny.
We're all getting very dark.
Not doing anything for my complexion. Let's put it that way.
Lisa, other projects that you're working on?
Yes, well, I will. But speaking of, I'm really looking forward to this Chekhov thing, Gordon. I didn't know you were doing this years back, quite a few years back, about 15 years back. I co-compiled an evening of Chekhov short stories, and they're not the usual, the marriage proposal, the bear, these were really rather obscure Chekhov short stories, and it started with a man playing a young Chekhov, young doctor, introducing several of these, and he's always been a favorite of mine. So and so are you. So I'm definitely going to see your Chekhov piece. And speaking of the Russians, I'm reading this weekend via Zoom. I did this in Boston a year or so ago at the Nora, a reading of a new play about Anna Akhmatova, who was one of Russia's most famous poetesses. And I play her, and it's a 2-character, and we're doing this for Zephyr Press. Zephyr Press is they just publish poetry. So we're all over the country, and we'll be doing this Sunday afternoon.
I didn't know you were at the Nora a couple of years ago. I love the Nora Lee, and yeah, I mean,
yes. Me too. And it wasn't. This was just This was a staged reading. Right. It wasn't full. They were hoping to get a full production, but we'll see. Maybe they still will. I don't know. Yeah. Fear of the Russian. In more ways than one.
And speaking of writers, Ernest, you are bringing your writing workshop back again, but this time virtually. If you could tell everyone about it, and I will underneath you scroll information if people are interested in attending your virtual workshop.
Yeah, I've been doing these workshops for writers for years, and I have helped or gotten out of the way of hundreds of writers who had stories to tell. And that's what this workshop is called, What's Your Story? And we are doing what I usually do in person at my farm here in New Hampshire. We're doing it online this time, but it's not like one of those master classes where you just listen to me blab. You write. So writers can participate regardless of what their background is. And I've had writers who've had plays done in New York, and I've had writers who've never put pen to paper. I've had teachers and attorneys and people for whom it's a wish list, bucket list dream. But I take only 8 writers because in the real world I only have 8 chairs at my dining table, and people come and tell their stories. And over the course of the weekend, each person writes a very short play. It can only be 5 pages long, lasting 5 minutes. We are privileged to have Lisa Bostner, and I hope Gordon Clapp this time, and other really terrific actors read the new material. So for some writers, it'll be the first time they've ever heard their material read aloud. We'll have a Zoom audience on Sunday afternoon, but it starts on Friday night, November 6th, which happens to be my birthday. And we work all weekend, and the writers will sit around with me once we've had a chance to meet the actors. Then we send the actors away, and the writers and I go to work. And we talk about where stories come from. And I share my experiences as a writer, and I've written a few. I've written 30 or 40 plays and as many movies and novels. And I talk about how I go about it, and then we share personal experiences from our own lives, and that becomes material from which the writers will draw. And by the next morning, each writer will present an outline for the play that he or she will write over the next few hours. And by Saturday afternoon, I will be reading brand new plays that had never existed before. It's the great thrill of my life to share that with those writers. And I will try to sound vaguely intelligent about what I think the virtues of the work are and what some possible challenges are. I send all the writers back home that night, which means leaving their computers, and come back the next morning with a second draft. And then we all gather around the table. The actors show up. They get to hear their material read by professional actors of terrific reputation. Sometimes there'll be a third draft before the audience arrives. Usually at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, those 8 new plays will be presented to an audience for the first time. And to me, it's one of the great proud moments of my life to see through the eyes of those writers their material read by a Gordon Clapp or Lisa Bostner or the other unbelievably talented actors that we assemble. And the actors come only to serve the writers. So it's an amazing experience. And people ask, well, why plays? Why I'm not a playwright. I'm a screenwriter. I'm a poet, or I write briefs. It's because it's live, and it makes the story come to life. And I always say, if you can write a 5-minute play using dialogue as your only method of imparting information, you can write anything. And a lot of it is about process, because what happens with writers a lot of the time, I'm sure some of your listeners will relate to this. They think, I'm going to write the great American novel, and they get to chapter 1 goes great. Chapter 2, I don't really know what I'm going to do now. Or they'll write the first scene of a play and not know where to go from that, or a poem or a song. At the What's Your Story workshop, there's no room to fail. Everybody succeeds, and everybody walks away Sunday evening with a new story. And it teaches us, all of us, and it reminds me, you just keep forging ahead. And so it's all about process and results. But I also want to say, Steve, because you've given me this forum, as you know, I'm a songwriter as well. And the last time I was on your show, we had John Davidson, our great friend, sing a new song of mine called Live Free or Die. That video is now finished and we're about to go out with it. And in my COVID spare time, I have written a passel of other songs. So we have a new one we're about to release called Believe in Love. And I started writing it at the beginning of COVID lockdown because I wanted people to really understand that we're all in this together and there really is a sense of community. And if you're ever going to believe in love, this would be a good time to do it. I didn't know when I started it that Black Lives Matter was going to erupt and that there was going to be all of this uprising of beautiful expression all around the country, reminding me of my life in the 60s. So that song, I also have a video I'm almost finished with. That's going to come out. And I have a new song called Please Put on Your Mask. You can probably guess what it's about. But that's been a little bit of a controversy in our culture. This song is going to nail it for people. And it's sung by a beautiful friend of mine from Boston named Samantha Farrell. So all of those songs are about to be available. So
And where do we find those, Ernest?
you'll find them on my website and on YouTube as soon as we release them, and we'll make a big announcement about it. But,
Good.
I'm
Wow.
loving the opportunity to be able to do all of that.
Good.
Steve, you're mute now.
Oh, now we can't
Oh,
hear
you-
you.
I'm just going to repeat the website is ERNESTThompson.us. Correct.
ERNESTThompson.us.
Dot
Come
US.
visit. Say hello. We're lonely here.
Yeah, right.
Say hello. Listen, I can't thank you guys enough. What a panel. I think our audience knows that the amount of talent around three of these quadrants is just phenomenal and in different beautiful ways. And I'm so glad everybody was able to be on. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Ernest.
Thank you. It was great
Thank
seeing
you,
you all.
Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen, for giving
Stephen,
us
and come home safely, honey.
And yes, I will come home safely, sweetheart. I thank everyone. We look forward to that time where we can give each other a hug, a real hug, and not a virtual one. And hopefully that is not as long as it could be. I'll just put it that way. But again, thank you all, and best of luck with your project. This very innovative
It is.
Cries of Valor in Defiance. This web series that could go from now until whenever. And so everyone be on the lookout for Cries of Valor in Defiance coming to you from this incredible panel. So good night, everyone. Thank you so much from my audience to everyone. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank
Bye,
you.
Gordon.
Stephen.
Bye,
Thank
Ernest.
you
Bye,
all.
Lisa.
Bye.
See you soon, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, and then that is a panel. I mean, I've got really tickled to get those folks. They're friends, but they're also such accomplished, creative people and performers that it really is. It really is exciting that be able to get them in kind of our little round table, our little Brady Bunch quad there. And to hear about exciting projects going on, certainly the one that they're all working on together. So I'm so glad you were all here. I'm going to end with one more message that I just want to remind everybody that we still have our seats out here in the new theater, the William David Epps. We would ask you to name a seat. As over 220 some people have out of our 330 seat auditorium, which I can tell you, you're looking at them there. They are the most comfortable seats, the leg room, the width, everything. It will be remarkable. You will remark to people that the Park Theater has very, very comfortable seating in its main auditorium. For film as well as for live theater and musical concerts. You will see over in the posting section of Facebook and YouTube the URL if you would like to name a seat. It's park-2020.com, park-20 2020.com. So please, if you can have a seat that will live on in the theater way past any of us. And it can be named in honor of yourself, and of a loved one, of an organization, of a pet, of a thought, because we've had even some named just with a thought that somebody has given, which is really beautiful. So the seats are there. We hope that you will take advantage of that while we've still got some left, as we get ourselves ready for opening. And yes, we are getting ready. I can't give you the exact date, but we are moving in a forward direction, even with all the issues of COVID. So with that in mind, let me also leave you with the words that I leave you. Well, no, first, before I do that, I just want to remind you that if you want to contact us about this show, our guests, questions, anything about today's show, previous shows, whether you'd like to sponsor this program, you can always email us at parktv@theparktheater.org, parktv@theparktheater.org, or call us Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 at 532-9300, 532-9300. And now, as we always end our programs, just a thought. And the thought is very simple, as it has been since we began these shows March 24th of this year. Please be safe. Please be healthy. Always be kind to others, and be hopeful, because we can do this, and we are doing this. This is Steve Jackson. Again, thank you so much for being with us. And I thank my panel, Gordon, Ernest, and Lisa. A great panel this week. And again, you can, this show will be archived, so you can share it with friends on via parkyoutube.com or our Facebook video library. Pass it along to other folks. We'd love for you to do that. And with that, I say bye-bye. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciated it very much.